You will never guess what. I have got a really great hack for you. What is it that I'm talking about? Well, when you want to make either a crochet or knitted blanket and the actual pattern has not been made up yet, you are left wondering how much yarn you're going to need. Sadly, it comes with a caveat though. You do need to have a few crochet or knitted blankets that you can use. So here's the actual hack. What you need to do is search through your blanket pile and find one that is made from the same weight yarn that you're going to use for your new project. Then, if you can, find a blanket that is approximately the size that you want to make. Now, if said blanket is only a half the size of what you want to create next, or maybe a third, or maybe it's too big and you only want to make half the size of this one, we can just use this blanket as a base, and I'll show you how to calculate your yarn needs. Step 1 is to figure out approximately what size your new crochet blanket would be. And if you're lucky, it might be very similar, if not the same, to one of the blankets that you have already made. Step 2 is to measure up the width and the length of the blanket that we're working from here. And all that you need is your kitchen scales, a bowl, and some mathematics. You might be just lucky enough to have a blanket that's like for like, the one that we're weighing up and working from compared to the one that we're going to make. If not, we can make some adjustments to cater for that too. Now we just need to set the scales. So you should have an on button and a button that says tear. We're also going to be using kilograms, not pounds. So turning your scales on, we just pop our bowl on the top and it'll tell us how much the bowl weighs, but we don't want that there. So we just go in and press this button called tear. It takes the scales back to 0. There we go. Now what we weigh will be true. We'll pop the blanket in the bowl, just sitting it in there gently, and then come down and we'll have a look and see how much it weighs. So that is telling me 646 grams. Pop these things away and it's time for some maths. Before we do our calculations, I need to let you know that you can't do this one in inches because we're working with balls of yarn that are 100 grams each, not working with ounces or pounds. Okay, so you will need to convert your measurements, if they're in inches, to centimeters. And this chart here, which I'm going to pop into this video now, helps you work that out because it's got it written down for both sizes. So we know from our blanket measurements that the blanket I'm using to weigh up and work from is 125 centimeters long by 60 centimeters wide. Now, because we've weighed it, we know that it's 646 grams, which I'm going to round up to 650. Okay, now most balls of yarn come in 100 grams. Certainly the ones that we're going to use here most likely will. So if you divide that by 100, you will get 6.5 balls. Now I'm using 6 colours, so then I've just got 0.5 left over. Okay, I'm going to round up the 6.5 to 7 balls of yarn. So if I'm lucky enough to have 2 balls of each colour, that's great, especially because I don't know what the texture is going to be in the new blanket that I'm making. So all up, I will end up with 12 balls of yarn. If you wanted to make a baby blanket and you thought half of this original size blanket we're working from looked as a good size for a baby blanket, all you would need to do is half the amount of balls that we've come up with. So that would be 3.5 balls of 100 gram yarn. Now, when you're shopping for your yarn, you can choose any colours that you like. Say you choose 4 colours, I would just get 4 balls of yarn. So rounding that 5 up, making the 3.5 into a 400 gram blanket equals 4 balls of 100 gram yarn. Say you wanted a much larger blanket than the one we were working from, and if double that looked like it was going to be okay, it would weigh double the amount. So 650 grams times 2 is 1300, so it's 1.3 kilos, which is 13 100 gram balls of yarn. You can see what we're doing here now. We've got our base size blanket, and then we can find a baby size blanket or a larger size blanket and the amount of balls that you will need. Now I'm going to show you how you can get a fraction of this blanket size we've been working from. Say you want your blanket to be about 2/3 the size of this one. There's a much easier way of doing this than finding the area and dividing that into the amount of grams. On this page, I've written out how to make a blanket 2/3 the size of the original blanket I've been weighing. Alright, so our original blanket is 125 centimetres by 60 centimetres, and we worked out that we need 7 balls of 100 gram yarn. Now, before we go any further, to cater for texture and fancy stitching, I would always round up than round down, and maybe even add 1 more. So you could put 8 balls of yarn quite easily there for this blanket size. Now, if we want to make our blanket 2/3 the size of this original one, what we do is we get our numbers, divide them by 3, okay, so you're splitting them into thirds, then times it by 2 because you want 2/3 of this size, which gives you 83 centimetres, and with the 60 divided by 3 times 2 gives you 40 centimetres. So you've got your measurements of your blanket that is 2/3 the size of the original one. Then all you have to do is the same calculation with the 7 balls of yarn. So I've done 7 balls divided by 3 equals 2.33. I times that amount by 2 to make it 2/3 of the amount, which gives me 4.67. Round that up to 5. So therefore, a blanket that is 2/3 the size of the original one that I weighed would use up 5 balls of 100 gram yarn. And you can apply this equation to anything. Any blanket that you want to be smaller than the original sized one. If you're wanting to make larger size blankets from this calculation, we've got the larger one here where we doubled it. You know what you could do to make life easy for yourself, because to do the true calculations, it's starting to get a little bit much. What you can do here is think, okay, double the size of this and I'll double that again. So divide the amount of balls you have here in half. So let's go with 6.5. So you add 13 and 6.5, and I'd just round that up to 20 balls for a much larger blanket. Okay? I really hope this has been helpful and not too confusing, in a way that can help you figure out your yarn amounts for a project that is not yet complete. I'm going to see you really soon for the first segment of our unnamed yet blanket, which has been made in half double crochets. All right, everybody, happy prepping, get your yarn organised and we'll be ready to go. Bye for now. And all that you need, we're just going to turn them on or on. We want it to go back to 0. So you just press the tear button